This episode of the Skift podcast features a discussion from a recent online Skift event. To join us and learn more about future Skift events, visit live.skift.com.
Please welcome CEO for Southwest Airlines, Bob Jordan, in discussion with Airline Weekly editor Madhu Unikrishnan.
Easy. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you for all of you who are listening online. Thank you, Bob, for joining us.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for having me.
I'm thrilled to actually see you in person. It's been a few years.
But the last year and a half feel like about 5 years, right?
Right.
So we can't count it that way. But yeah, I think it's been 4 years since we've been together.
Exactly, and it's great to be in person. I'm not so thrilled not to be wearing sweatpants, unfortunately.
I'm not sure what that meant exactly.
You know, it's been a pandemic.
Actually, I'm thrilled you're not wearing sweatpants either.
I'm glad for that.
Okay.
So the theme of today's conversation is aviation at an inflection point, or airlines at an inflection point. And this is probably the worst crisis that has hit
Undoubtedly.
airlines worldwide. But I wanted to get started with you yourself are at an inflection point. So I understand 33 years ago you had quite a job interview at Southwest.
Yeah, funny you ask. I'm not sure if I'm an inflection point or not. I'm not sure what that.
We'll get to that.
Because those can be up or down,
Right.
But no, when I was working for Hewlett-Packard in California, and we actually, the family's in Dallas, wanted to get back to Dallas, so I had my mother-in-law send me the Dallas Morning News. This is back before that thing called the internet.
Did you circle a job?
Yeah, so you circle a job, and it was for a company called Southwest Airlines, and I had no idea who they were. They were so small. So I apply, and I fly in on Southwest. This is before the Wright Amendment, so I fly in for an interview, and I have 1 day. And so we land, I have to change planes in El Paso, and of all things, I get snowed in El Paso. I mean,
Wait, when does that happen?
That day, never.
Yeah, never.
So I get snowed in El Paso, so by the time I get to Dallas, I have an hour for my interview. So I run down to what we call the people department, do a quick interview. It turns out it's the day after the corporate Christmas party. So everyone that I talk to is hungover at Southwest, not just Herb. And so I get a couple of questions, and then I run over, and I'm interviewing for a programmer job. And I meet with our CIO for a few minutes. We're talking, and in runs a guy, and he goes, "Oh my gosh, we've got this issue with our Hewlett-Packard system." They had no Hewlett-Packard programmer. I was filling the one job, so I'm like, well, I could probably help. So I go in there, and I clickety, and I fix something, and I fly home. Never really interview. So I get this call the next day. "You want to come to work for Southwest Airlines?"
Yeah.
So that is my start.
And it turned out all right for you. I mean, now you will be CEO in February.
I will. It has turned out. It's funny. Who could ever imagine? I could never. When I get out of college, start at Southwest, would never have imagined this would be a possibility.
Right.
I'll admit I was surprised whenever this is what we chose to do with the board and with Gary, and it's a completely humbling experience to be able to lead such an iconic company. Our 56,000 terrific, wonderful people. I tell people, I get a lot of, "How do you feel about all this?" question, and it's semi-joking, semi-not. I usually say I'm 80% completely excited and about 20% terrified. So, because it is a big job. But I would never have imagined we would be here.
Congratulations. So let's get into it then. What do you see as your main challenges and opportunities on day one? And let's start with the opportunities and then go on to the challenges.
Oh, you bet. I think the crisis that we're in is unlike anything we've ever seen as a company or an industry. I mean, 9/11 was really difficult, but a lot of folks forget that the first quarter after 9/11, we had record profits.
Right.
So the recovery was much faster. This is nothing like that. We've never seen our business in 3 weeks go down 98%. Fly aircraft with one passenger and one bag on them. So we've never seen anything like that. So as I think about what are the priorities? I think number one, we've got to continue to emerge from the pandemic. I mean, it's really clear. I wish we didn't have this Delta variant wave. It's really clear that 2022 is another year of transition. I wish it was a normal year, but it's clear that we're going to be in a transition period here. So just continue to recover from the pandemic, I think is certainly right up there. The way I'm thinking about what does Bob need to do over the next a couple of months, it's really basic. Thinking about the transition, I've got a couple of things I really want to do. You've got to communicate like crazy. So that I'm trying to say yes to every opportunity to go out and be with media, be with our investor relations folks, and especially be with our people, be in town halls and be in stations, and so that you almost cannot communicate enough. The second thing is I want to be with our people. I feel it's important for me to affirm this terrific culture that we have at Southwest Airlines. So I'm trying to be in a station every single week. I was in Phoenix last week with our people and just truly enjoyed it. The people of Southwest Airlines are just wonderful. So I feel like I need to be out there. And then last, you just have to have a bias for action. Even though this is not effective till February, change, even for terrific people in a terrific company and a terrific culture, change just generates uncertainty.
Right.
And the faster that you can move some of that uncertainty along and have a bias for action, the better.
Right. Well, there is a lot of uncertainty right now.
Right.
Right. And Southwest, I mean, how do you see the airline navigating out of this crisis in the near to medium term? And has not Delta, the airline, how's the Delta variant of the coronavirus?
You had to bring up Delta.
Delta probably right. Might have scrambled your plans as well, but how has the Delta variant scrambled your plans for the rest of the year?
This whole thing has been unpredictable. You have a wave, you think maybe it's over. You have another wave, you think it's over. The good thing is that every subsequent wave, the business has been a little bit less affected. But there's no way to say that the Delta variant has not had an impact on our business. It has. Our bookings are off, revenues are off. I'm hopeful that we are at the peak of that impact. It looks like we're on the backside of that. Our bookings and our corporate business is stabilized, and so I'm hopeful we're sort of moving on there. But it's had an impact for sure, absolutely. I love the
booking curve lengthening at all, or it's still pretty short?
No, I think if you look out, the bookings are really normal. If you look at the holiday period, it is relatively normal. What's the real impact are the close-in cancellations. So people just make decisions a week or two or three. I mean, I'm sure you had this here. You've had this here where you're trying to figure out what the in-person and virtual attendance is going to be, and people make that decision sometimes a week before the conference. What I love is we've been able to really take advantage during the pandemic. So you go looking for when business is down 97%. You go looking for revenue anywhere you can find it. So you saw us open 18 cities, and they're all doing really, really well. You saw us expand Hawaii. And so I think we're able to really take advantage of the pandemic.
If I could break in, for an airline to add 18 cities in a year is pretty remarkable. I mean, that's essentially a decade's worth of growth in 1 year, or new destinations in 1 year for a lot of airlines. So
yep.
How have you rejiggered the route network in response to the pandemic?
Nothing that we did was not planned. Mm-hmm. The way I would say is that we basically pulled forward things that we were going to do over a longer period of time because we had the aircraft available. We didn't need as many flights, as many frequencies because the traffic just wasn't there. Through the waves, at the beginning, traffic was down 97%. Then the next wave, it was down 80. And then the next wave, it was down more like 50. And so we just had a lot of aircraft that could do different jobs. So we thinned the network out. We didn't close cities, but we did reduce routes in some cases, and especially reduce depth and frequency. So that's how we were able to fund the cities in Hawaii. What a lot of folks don't know is the 18 cities and our Hawaii expansion took 92 aircraft to do that. So I've been asked a lot.
Out of fleet?
Out of an active fleet in the 600s right now.
So 1/6.
So I've had a lot of folks say, "Well, you're going to open 10 more cities next year," and we may open a few, but the vast majority of the 114 aircraft we're getting next year, which is a record, by the way,
Right.
they're gonna go to restoring the network depth to what we were pre-pandemic. You know, if we used 92 aircraft to go expand Hawaii, and so the vast majority of that 114 net retirements is really all about restoring the network to the depth that we had in 2019. Without the depth, it's just harder to recover your customers. It's harder to move your employees around. It just makes things a lot more difficult. So we'll spend the vast majority of that fleet expansion restoring the network.
Right. Now, I heard you say recently that most of the cities you added and where you're concentrating the network is on, I think you called it surf and ski destinations. Is that right? So those are leisure routes, right?
I don't surf or ski, by the way, but
neither do I. But so
well, not well.
So are those are mainly leisure routes, right? Is that where you're seeing a lot of the traffic now, especially if you look at the end of the year?
Again, it's a little bit of a mixed story, but yeah, the leisure traffic came back much faster. You look at the summer, and there was an inflection point in February where you could see the bookings just took off. Mm-hmm. It was obvious, and it had to be the vaccines, the availability of vaccines, and so bookings were really strong into the summer, and yeah, the vast majority of that was leisure. Mm-hmm. Now we've had success opening primarily business airports too. You look at Intercontinental in Houston and O'Hare in Chicago, and so those are doing really well. In fact, all of the 18 and the Hawaii expansion are really all doing well, and they are either at or ahead of the plans that we had for them, which is just terrific.
And what about I heard Gary Kelly, the current CEO of Southwest, say that he thought about 20% of business travel is just not coming back. Do you still think that's true? This was months ago.
Boy, it is. It's we could poll the room and get all kinds of answers. I think that is a huge question. I do think every time you've had a prediction that it's different this time, that'll never happen, that'll never come back. Typically, it does. I think what you're going to see is a slow recovery. So, you've had offices that intended to open earlier in the year, and then you had the wave. You had offices then intended to open and bring back their employees Labor Day. You've got the wave, so they pushed that out either this fall or into next year. So I think it's more a matter of time than it is a matter of it will never come back. Now, is it going to come back to 100%? It's hard to say, but the first time, I've had a lot of my consulting friends especially tell me, the first time I lose a deal because I wasn't there in person, I'm on the road.
Right.
So I'm actually very optimistic for business travel recovery over time, but I think it's going to take a long time.
So yesterday, the CEO of Hilton was on the stage, and he said that Hilton's seeing a lot of travel from bookings from small and medium-sized enterprises, not the large corporates. Is that what Southwest is seeing as well?
It's a blend, but yes, I would say that generally that's the case for us. If you look at our managed business in total, we were picking up about 5 points of sort of getting back to normal every single month. We were on a really good pace. So then the Delta variant hits and we stalled. Mm-hmm. And we stalled in sort of July, August, September in the kind of down 63, down 64 range compared to 2019. And that was really across the board, all of our managed travel. Now we're beginning to see that pick up again. It's hard to predict what that pace is going to be, though.
Right.
But again, I'm very optimistic.
Optimistic that it'll come back.
But I'm an optimistic guy. I'm very optimistic that we're going to get the travel back. We are seeing the leisure travel again over the summer before the wave really hit. The leisure travel was really strong. And the interesting thing within that, we are seeing new customers that we've never seen before. We're seeing a record number of customers that have never flown, and especially the fare stimulation, low prices are bringing them into the market. So I'm actually really encouraged about that as well. We need to retain them.
Well, I wanted to ask, with some of these new passengers, and just in general, have you seen a rise in sort of unruly passengers after the mask mandate? Now, I want a little backstory. Ted Christie, the CEO of Spirit Airlines, put it this way. He said, if you take the totality of flights and the number of passengers that fly every day, and the number of unruly passenger incidents. It's more a media narrative than reality. And would you agree with that?
I feel like I keep saying it depends, right? I'll tell you this. I've been on a lot of our Southwest Airlines flights lately. Again, I'm trying to be somewhere in an airport every week to be with our wonderful employees and just talk to them, listen to them, encourage them. And I always talk, obviously, to our flight crews. And I would tell you two things. The majority of them have not experienced the sensational headline that you've seen. You know, some really bad behavior, fighting, that kind of thing. But they are all experiencing a very different environment. Folks just sitting for hours with the mask on, and nobody likes to have to enforce that, right. Either the passenger or our employees. So I do think the environment is just tougher. And Southwest Airlines are one of our greatest, if not the greatest advantage, are our wonderful employees that just love to deliver customer service to our customers. And it's just harder to do that with the mask on because they love to smile and take care of you. And in the environment that we're in, you can't do that. You've got a mask. And they're taking drink orders by looking at a card, and they just can't provide that touch that they could. But I will tell you this. No one. We've had a flight attendant that was punched. No one deserves that. And we're not going to tolerate that. Nobody deserves to come to work and have that happen to them. So we're not going to tolerate that. And two, we have, even though it's difficult, we have the best employees and best flight attendants on the planet. And I'm extremely proud of the way they've handled themselves and taken care of our customers.
All right, let's talk about employees. I mean, Southwest is, for those of you in the audience who don't know, Southwest has never laid off or furloughed
right.
a single employee in its 47, 48 years. I think we're
our 50 years.
50 years of existence. But you're a smaller airline than you were in 2019. I mean, you went through voluntary buyouts or voluntary leaves of absences and buyouts. You're much smaller. But you are also adding 114 aircraft, and that's a lot of growth. So are you ramping up hiring now, and are you facing any challenges with that?
Yeah, it's, this whole last 18 months has been a complete whipsaw. Mm-hmm. It's incredible the pivots that have gone on. But no, we had 5,000 take an early retirement. We had about 11,000 take temporary leaves up to 2 years. We had folks taking monthly leaves. Our employees reacted and rose to the challenge in just an admirable way. We needed to cut costs, and they did that, but it was all voluntary. Mm-hmm. And so I'm very proud of the airline and our company for being able to do that and not put all of this on the backs of our employees. So you do all that, and then suddenly the demand becomes to come back, and we are in the summer in the midst of recalling almost everybody that we had on a leave, and so you got to retrain, and so that's very difficult. So then you move from that to, oh my gosh, we need to hire. We are hiring 5,000 this fall across the company. We anticipate we're going to hire about 8,000 next year.
And is this in all work groups?
All work groups. Again, primarily on the front line, but across all work groups. And it is really difficult. We're a terrific company that has never had any issue attracting applicants, and even we are finding it hard. We're raising wages, and that's both in the contract and the non-contract areas. And it's just difficult. Where we used to typically receive about 42, 43 applications per opening, I believe we're receiving about 14 right now. It's just the number of open jobs, which, I mean, everybody's experiencing it. I've never seen a time when you go to a restaurant and or a store and it says, we're closed at 3 o'clock today because we don't have staff. I think, and I've been with the company 33 years, 34 here in February, and the constraints have always been, can we get aircraft, can we get facilities, can we get gates? I've never experienced a time when the constraint is, can we get employees?
So let's talk about that for a second. I mean, I've worked in full disclosure, I've worked for a couple airlines, and there's a very great benefit.
You can say it, United.
There's a very great benefit that airlines offer, right? And that's the travel benefits.
Right.
But you're finding it difficult to attract people. Who are you competing against for talent?
It depends on the type of position. I would say for our more entry-level positions like the ramp or in an airport, you are competing with everybody. I mean, we've moved our wages along, but we've de facto become, as a country, a $15 minimum wage, it feels like. Right. So we're hiring all over the place, but a good example is Denver. So I was in Denver 2 weeks ago. We need to hire about 250 people on the ramp, and we're offering, obviously, great wages, a great career. Your pay goes up very quickly in the union scale, travel benefits, terrific health benefits, but to get someone to come interview with Southwest Airlines, and if you know where the Denver airport is, it's a little ways out of the city, they probably have to drive by 30 places that have job application or job opening posted in the window that are all offering similar wages, and so it's just difficult. This may not make any sense because I don't know who's familiar with Whataburger. All right, come on! It's the best burger on the planet. You ever near
In-N-Out is.
No,
Californian In-N-Out is better.
Cheap imitation.
No.
But no, we're not going to debate burgers.
We can talk about it offline.
So I'm in Dallas, and I go through at one point I go through the Whataburger drive-through, which I try to be healthy. I don't do that very much. I go through the Whataburger drive-through, I pay, I get my bag, and stapled to the bag is a job application.
Really?
They are stapling a job application to the sack of food that every single person coming through the drive-thru gets, and you go, that's what it's come to. Now, usually when I tell a story at Southwest Airlines, the first thing they ask me is whether I applied or not. But
did you?
I did not. I'm not sure I'm qualified, but it has become, to me, the sort of the symbol of the job market that we live in here. There's so much competition. Now, I'm confident we'll get staffed, but I've told everybody internally, sort of back to the priorities, I want to communicate, be with our employees, but transition. But job one this fall is get staffed and get stable in our operation, because stability in our operation depends on getting staffed.
Right. Well, we're almost out of time, but I got to ask you one question.
Yep.
Will bags continue to fly free?
What do you think?
You got to paint.
Hey, this isn't United.
You got to repaint a lot of airplanes.
Bags fly free, no change fees. It's part of our DNA. It is not changing. Absolutely.
All right, Bob. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you so much.